Good afternoon, everyone. This is video blog or vlog number 2 for TCAOA basketball officiating. Those of you who don't know me, I'm the head of basketball training. My name's Tom Barnico. I've been with the association for 20 years now. I'm back when it was moving from Bay Metro to now TCAOA. The season is scheduled to start tomorrow. Girls season starts tomorrow. Boys season starts next week. So I'm taping this on Sunday, November 28th. And I want to wish everyone the best of luck this season. It's the amount of time and effort that our officials put in every season is, I'm always amazed at it. Whether you work 1 game a week or 7 games a week or more, again, the commitment and the time and effort that goes into officiating cannot be overstated. Not only is it time away from families, but it's time in gyms, getting confronted by players, coaches, spectators, and that's not easy. And I know I speak for Jason and Ed and Scott when I say how much we all appreciate the time and effort that the 185 officials that are on the TCAOA basketball roster put into the season. The next 3.5 to 4 months could see some changes in protocols. Right now, we're kind of back to normal where we were prior to the pandemic. But you know, the next variant sounds like it could be pretty intense as well. So we adapt and we overcome, just like we did last year, just like we'll do this year, just like we'll do years after. But again, my primary point in all of this is to thank each and every one of you for just the accountability to call your partners, email your partners, call or email the schools ahead of time, making sure everything's straight before you actually go and officiate the game. And then once you officiate the game, it just takes a lot of effort. And I definitely appreciate that. So I'm filming this the day after the Mega-Scrimmage that took place at Midland Dow. So this is Sunday, November 28th. The Mega-Scrimmage took place yesterday. After 10 hours of watching basketball, there were some key takeaways that I wanted to cover. And this video probably won't last quite as long as last week's. Last week's ran a little bit longer than I would have liked it to, but there was some good information in there that I was able to find online that I wanted to bring to everyone's attention. But the first element that I want to talk about from yesterday's Dow Mega-Scrimmage is just to build the awareness among officials that the game hasn't improved over the pandemic. For the last 3 or 4 years, I've heard a lot of officials say, I just don't like officiating bad basketball. It's not something where we're going to see a drastic improvement overnight. And again, from what I saw yesterday, we are, we still have a level of basketball that is pretty much equal to what it was during or last season, excuse me, and then leading up to the pandemic. So the reason I bring this forward is to say to everyone, be ready for whatever the game gives you. You're not going to be officiating a Division I basketball game every night. And if that's your expectation, I would temper those expectations significantly. Everyone knows that this area of the state isn't a thriving basketball metropolis. We have some very skillful players. We have some very skillful teams. We have some very cerebral coaches. But overall, I think we need to be prepared for the same game that we've been officiating for the last 5, 7, 10 years. The level hasn't changed. So I understand when people say to me, I don't like officiating bad basketball. The reality of the situation is the game is what it is. Now, that doesn't mean we call the game any differently, but the game is what it is. So as we get prepared for the next 3 to 4 months, I just wanted to keep it on everyone's radar to not set their expectations too high. Something else that I took away from yesterday's Mega-Scrimmage is the importance of putting your hand in the air anytime you blow the whistle. So whether it's a violation or a foul, we need to make sure that when we are blowing the whistle, our hand is simultaneously going up in the air. As Tom Beamlander talked about during his training meeting a couple of weeks ago, hopefully everyone knows violations get an open hand, fouls get a closed fist. And we want to put our arm and our hand as high above our head as possible. We don't want arms going up at 90-degree angles. We don't want arms going up at 45-degree angles. We want arms straight up and down vertically. And I think if we focus on getting our hand in the air anytime we blow the whistle, that will improve our communication with both coaches and the table during games. Because here's the thing to remember. Sometimes, and I've been guilty of this as well, every once in a while I'll make a call and my whistle won't be very strong. Normally I try to put as much air into the whistle as possible, but there are times where for whatever reason, my whistle doesn't come off as very strong. And when you've got a lot of ambient noise in the gym, a lot of shoe squeaking going on, a faint whistle oftentimes could be misconstrued as a player's feet scuffing the floor, which is why it's important to get your hand up. Because if someone's questioning whether what they heard was a whistle or not, if they don't see an arm or a hand in the air, they're going to think it was just something else and play is going to continue. So be sure to put your hand in the air anytime the whistle blows. The other thing to remember too is anytime you are administering a throw-in, your hand should be in the air. Open hand in the air when you are administering a throw-in. And then once the ball is legally touched by a player, that's when you chop the clock. Another thing to remember on the last free throw, before the ball becomes live, the trail official should have their hand in the air once the ball is released on the free throw try. So it's important to remember that the trail official's role is to have their hand in the air and then chop the clock on a missed free throw when the ball rebounds off the rim and is legally touched by a player. So that legal touching after the ball hits the rim indicates when the clock should start. Another thing to remember for the lead official on the final free throw before the ball comes live, if the last free throw is good, it is the lead official's responsibility to have their hand in the air as the ball is being taken out of bounds, and then chop the clock when the ball is legally touched inbounds. And the reason we do this is because the table, the coaches, and the spectators have eyes on officials to know when the clock should start and when the clock should stop. So in order for us to effectively manage, administrate, and officiate the game, we need to make sure that our hands are up at the right points throughout the game. One other thing that I saw yesterday, we want the trail to remember that they should be mirroring the lead official on successful three-point attempts. So whether you were at our mechanics walkthrough 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, you've been reading through the officials manual, or you've been officiating for 30 years and you're just watching this as a refresher, keep in mind, whether it's 2-person or 3-person, the trail official should mirror the lead official on a 3-point try. Now, in 2-person, the lead has some responsibility on 3-point shot attempts. In 3-person, the only time the lead should signal a 3-point try is in transition down the floor when the 3-point attempt happens right in front of them and the trail official is still behind the play. But again, it's important to remember the trail official should always mirror the lead official on successful 3-point attempts. 99% of the time, that will be 2-person. Now, yesterday at Dow's Mega-Scrimmage, there was no 3-person. So another key to remember is the center and the trail official should be mirroring each other on 3-point attempts. Or I'm sorry, excuse me, should be mirroring one another on successful 3-point attempts. So if the trail has responsibility for marking the 3-point attempt, they go up, 3-point attempt, and they signal that the attempt was good, the center should be mirroring that call, and vice versa. Center has responsibility for the 3, they go up, try is successful, the trail should be mirroring that. So just something to keep in mind there. I wish I didn't have to include this bullet point, but there were already a couple of issues with coaches yesterday at a scrimmage. Earlier, or I should say, frequently, we talk about conflict management with coaches, players, and spectators. And I'm sure everyone is tired of hearing about it. But the reality of the situation is that one of the things that I advocated for, and the reason I advocate for it so hard, I should say, what I advocate for is thinking about how you want to address conflict with a coach ahead of time. You should not only pregame it with your crew before the game, you should pregame it with yourself so that you know what you are going to say to some of the more common complaints that you hear throughout the game. Obviously, having a standard in place where you're not going to address statements, perfectly fine. Only addressing questions that are asked in a calm and reasonable manner, again, that's 100% fine. But you might find yourself in a situation where there is an inevitable conversation that needs to happen with a coach. And if it's kind of rooted in conflict, how do you personally want to manage that conflict with a coach? That has to be a decision that you make, because how Tom Barnico handles conflict with a coach is different than Scott Helmka, which is different than Jason Andrzejewski, which is different than Ed Phillipson. You can't communicate the way someone else communicates. Now, we can have kind of some standards that we can pass along to one another, but the communication ultimately is going to come from you. So how you personally choose to communicate in those situations is how you are going to manage that interaction. So that's why I say pregame with yourself, pregame with your crew, how you are going to handle conflict with coaches. Don't be surprised when the conflict is brought to you, because it's going to be. How do we handle that? Finally, I would like to encourage everyone to work deeper as the trail official. When I say deeper, I mean further towards the end line. We should, as a trail official, and again, whether this is 2-person or 3-person, our originating spot on the court as a trail official should be the top of the key. The intersecting line between the top of the key and the 3-point arc, that's where you want to start yourself as a trail official. If you need to move out closer to the midline to officiate a matchup with a ball handler, that's fine. But in all reality, anytime the ball moves below the top of the key, you should be moving with that ball. Now, you don't want to work free throw line extended as a trail official, especially in 2-man. You want to operate from the top of the key. But having the willingness to step down further and help out on shots that go up in the paint, rebounding action that happens in the paint. There's all kinds of things that tend to happen while the ball is in the air or while the ball is coming off the rim. And it should be our responsibility as officials to be working deep enough as the trail official. You're going to get beat. You are absolutely 100% going to get beat. It happens. You can tell yourself before the season starts, this is the one year that I'm not going to get beat. And if you don't get beat a few times during the season, that means you're not working deep enough as the trail official. There's nothing wrong with getting beaten. Okay. I know it can be tough to accept when you are getting beaten, but the reality of the situation is if you are effectively officiating the game as a trail official, you are going to get beat multiple times throughout the season. So become okay with that fact, because it's much more important for trail officials to work deeper towards the end line than it is getting beat on transition down the other end of the floor. The observers in our association will be the first ones to tell you they're not going to get upset if you're getting beaten down the floor. Now, if you're getting beaten every time down the floor, let's say there's a made basket on the end of the floor where you're the trail official and the ball's being inbounded and making it down the floor, when on the side of the floor that you've become the new lead official, if you're getting beaten multiple times throughout the game in those situations, then that's an issue. But transition, getting beaten on a transition play because you're working deeper towards the end line, that's not an issue. No observer, whether it be for us in TCAOA or from the MHSAA, is going to have a problem if you're getting beaten on a fast break going the other way. There's going to be much more of an issue if you are officiating as the trail official from 35 feet away from the basket, 40 feet away from the basket. The days of being one step inside the midline as the trail official in the front court are over. We have to get used to, and we have to adapt to working deeper towards the end line. And again, the point of reference for 2-person, 3-person, whatever the case may be, trail officials should be working at the top of the key, right at the 3-point arc. Other than that, I saw some really good officiating yesterday. I know having a slide that says, here's what I didn't see could make everyone think that there was bad officiating yesterday. On the contrary, putting this list together was tough because there was so much good officiating. I saw a lot of officials yesterday that looked to be in mid-season form with their mechanics, their movement, their awareness of what was going on in the game. What I saw yesterday, which I really liked, was the lack of what we call game stopping calls, blowing the whistle even when it's not needed. Most of the time, this will be on rebounding action. Maybe the defensive rebounder has position. They get slightly pushed in the back going for a rebound, but they collect the rebound, 100% collect it without an issue, and we start going the other way. By rule, should we be calling that push in the back? Probably. But the reality of the situation is I want the game to flow as best as possible. The more frequently I stop the game, the less flow there is going to be to the game. Now, that's not me advocating for not blowing obvious calls or not making calls that absolutely need to be made. I'm not saying that at all. Shooter gets hit on the arm, you're calling that every single time, regardless of time, score, situation. Someone gets hacked on the arm going up for a shot, you're calling it. But if a defensive rebounder collects a rebound, they're able to get off an outlet pass, and his or her team start moving the ball down the floor in transition, I'm probably going to overlook that push in the back. Now, if it's egregious, or I'm worried about a girl's legs getting cut out from underneath her, or a guy gets hit in the head, even though he secured the rebound 100%, those are the types of fouls that I'm stepping in on and calling. But if the ball's going the other way, don't take away the opportunity for that transition. So I saw a lot of good whistles being withheld yesterday, which I like to see. And hopefully that carries over into the season. So great job, everyone, yesterday at the Mega-Scrimmage. Just a few things here to keep in mind. Again, good luck to everyone as the season gets underway. I know that it's not going to be flowers and rainbows, but again, I think we, as an association, we have some really good officiating fundamentals at play, and I think we're going to have a really good season. So thank you, everyone.